That's right. Greetings, fellow Ghibli fans. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Weil.
There are few names in the field of animation that inspire awe and admiration like animation master Hayao Miyazaki. To properly pay tribute to the man's illustrious career, we've embarked on a 3-year journey through his films, seeking enlightenment along the way. Hi-yo! May you find it with us this May-azaki!
May-azaki.
And tonight we are talking Ponyo, 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 Ponyo by the sea. All right, guys. So this Ponyo is a personal favorite of mine. It's believe it or not, I'm like 90% sure this is the first Ghibli movie that I saw in theaters. And it definitely had an impact on me. It wasn't the first Ghibli movie that I watched. I watched Spirited Away when it came out. I appreciated Spirited Away. Honestly, I like Spirited Away is one of those movies where it's like I totally see why everyone loves it. I'm a little bit at arm's length with it. I appreciate it a lot. I would not put it in my top 5 Ghibli movies, and I know that's a hot take. Ponyo, I think I would put in my top 5. I think Ponyo just it very much serves its purpose as like the most accessible, the most like down to earth Ghibli film. I feel like in a lot of ways it's kind of a spiritual successor to My Neighbor Totoro, but I think it's a lot more jovial and colorful than My Neighbor Totoro. I think that the plot flows a lot better. I'm a sucker for nautical settings, and this thing just has it in spades. This might not have like the most absolutely like high-tech, technologically advanced animation in the Ghibli canon, like with special effects and everything. But I love the aesthetic of this movie. I love the colors. I love the sea life. This movie is just like a feast for the eyes for me. It's one of my definite favorites in the Ghibli canon, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. All right, what say you guys with this thing?
Well, Jacob?
I guess I'll go next.
Yeah.
All right, this is actually one of the movies I actually did watch last year on my own outside of this. And then I did mention I also did watch Castle in the Sky last year as well. But this is actually one I did decide to watch outside because, I was growing up when like this was like the movie that Disney like advertised on Disney Channel and all that because when they had the partnership with Ghibli going on. And I will safely say this: I am 100% sure I have never actually seen a Ghibli movie in theaters. What do you say to that, Dragon?
Well, I say it's unsurprising.
What do you mean unsurprising?
Yeah, you've never seen a Ghibli movie in theaters.
I mean, I've had opportunities to, but I never have.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, I'm not surprised you haven't.
Jacob, I say you got to get on the Ghibli Fest, man.
Well, I mean, it's happening right now, so I'm gonna. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I like even if you've seen these movies, I have kind of indulged in the Ghibli Fest. I haven't seen everything that they've ever put out for it, but I tend to make a point to if I haven't seen it on the big screen before, just because if anything else, it's just like the opportunity to see 2D animation on the big screen at all is just so few and far between right now.
I mean, the thing is, I have seen 2 anime movies in theaters. Like I have seen like Your Name, Weathering with You, several like Promare, several others.
I'm actually kind of jealous that you saw Weathering with You in theaters. I missed that. Anyways,
I haven't seen Suzume yet, but I did see Weathering with You.
I did see Suzume. That's funny.
All right, so either way, my point is there's a bit of an echo going. But so my point is like I haven't seen this movie in theater, but this is one movie I actually was interested in seeing, but unfortunately I never did get around to it. I don't know if it was because I wasn't into Studio Ghibli at the time, or I didn't think it looked interesting. Like I said, I don't know, but going in, this is actually one I was kind of interested in visiting. because like I grew up watching like all the advertisements for it, seeing that like this is the movie I saw a lot. I guess like Disney, obviously, even though Disney did distribute The Wind Rises, it's not something they actually advertised on Disney Channel very much for obvious reasons. But this one, they did. I remember them actually advertising.
At some point in every child's life, they need to learn about tuberculosis.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh man!
Yeah, and not to mention the whole World War II thing.
Yeah, that's definitely
that as well
between this movie and Ponyo for sure.
Yeah.
This movie and Totoro. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, this movie came between, Howl's Moving Castle and The Wind Rises. But either way, my thesis on this is like of all the movies I've seen, I really from Ghibli, this definitely does rank up there. I mean, it's definitely not the most complicated movie or anything like that. But I said I didn't like Tiki. I love the aesthetics of this movie. Like the animation, all the characters are appealingly designed. Like the animation, I said it's not the most technical, but when it goes for it, it really goes for it.
Oh yeah,
it's bright, it's vibrant, it's colorful. It's like the scene with Ponyo running the water is still like one of the most magical things I've ever seen in my life. Funnily enough. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I still get chills every time I see it.
It's iconic, dude. It's definitely an iconic piece of animation for sure.
It is. And then one of my favorite things is like how the backgrounds actually kind of look like they're drawn in like a children's book.
Yep, definitely. I love how the waves look specifically.
Yep. And I gotta say, I just love the overall dynamic of the two characters. Ponyo and Sosuke are just adorable together. and basically the story's just, vibrant, cute, and a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with this one. I would definitely I can't say I haven't seen all of the Ghibli films, of course. But I would definitely put this up there for the ones I have seen.
All right, Dragon, what say you?
So, Roast Ponyo, I love it so much.
We all love it. Sorry.
Possibly the cutest and most joyful Hayao Miyazaki film. I remember way back, I was there. I saw it advertised as well. It was I was a scoffer of Ponyo. I scoffed before I saw it. It was like I saw eventually I saw the reviews. It's like, okay, maybe there's something a little more to it. And then there was the full on watch in which watch the movie and it was like, oh my god, this actually is worth the hype. This is fantastic. This is I watched it and I fell in love with it more than I thought I would in the Ghibli kind of catalog. It really feels like Miyazaki getting a second bite at the apple of Totoro. With kind of the wisdom that he's incurred through all the other films that he's made. He's like kind of going back into making kind of something that's in the mold of what Totoro was aimed to be. But again, just like with all the animation know-how that he had developed over those many years. Yeah. Totoro and beyond.
And honestly, in the early part of his career, as much as we like Castle in the Sky, we'll admit that the plot of that movie isn't necessarily the strong point. I really don't think until something like Princess Mononoke or probably Kiki's Delivery Service. I think Kiki's Delivery Service was when Miyazaki really started to get his plots really well oiled. Up until then, it was kind of a little bit of a growing, a learning curve.
Yeah, but even then with I can't say anything about Cagliostro, but at least even with Nausicaa, there was heavy emphasis on plot.
Well, yes, or well, kind of.
Well, I mean, there was a bigger attempt, I should say.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, so yeah, I feel Ponyo, it's driven by art, much, and it's in a similar vein to Totoro, in which it's driven by the art, and like Totoro, it's more feelings than narrative. Now, mind you, I'm not saying we don't have a good story here, but I do feel it's kind of in the vein of we're after we've been getting Ghibli films that have been more a little more narrative kind of woven in there, and again over time just kind of gotten kind of better. Mononoke.
The last three were Mononoke, Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle.
Exactly, which are great.
Arguably, like, the three most ambitious.
And again, I think the most refined plot that we've gotten from from Miyazaki at that point in time. I would argue Wind Rise is probably the best in terms of plotting throughout all the catalog, but we'll get there.
Wind Rises is essentially just plotted like a biopic, and that's probably why it works so well.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's so that's what I'm saying. But again, I kind of like Totoro. What I think a lot of people like about Totoro, this movie also kind of captures is, again, it's more like a feeling than a narrative. It's more like,
it's, as the kids would say, a vibe movie.
Well, I mean, if you want to just drag it through the mud like that, Tiki, but
it has that sense of childhood whimsy.
Mm-hmm. So that's so funny you mentioned that. So it's like very much like Miyazaki. It's still got that whimsy,
It almost feels like Miyazaki's Dumbo, just without the racism.
Well, it's a colorful way of putting it, Tiki, but yes.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, it's his most simple movie, but in a really, really charming way, and there is a lot of surrealism to it at the same time that makes it out.
But again, like, in getting this movie the time we did, it's basically showing us that Miyazaki still got that whimsy in him, even though we've been doing some films that have been a little bit more, kind of like, a little more grounded or serious, or a little more, have come in more, not negatively reflecting the world, but maybe a little more kind of combating cynicism.
I mean, Princess Mononoke is probably going to be, like, objectively my favorite Ghibli movie. Like, either, like, I'd say Whisper of the Heart is probably subjectively my favorite Ghibli movie. I think objectively the best one is Mononoke, and Mononoke is honestly pretty damn it's a bit nihilistic in parts, really.
Well, yeah.
And the funny thing is, technically, Whisper of the Heart was only written by Miyazaki.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I said Ghibli, but yeah.
Whisper of the Heart is the one that I think is that I can personally relate to the most.
Right,
it's down to earth human story, I think.
I haven't actually, funny enough, it's about a world of cats, kind of.
Well, it is absolutely. If you watch the movie, it's absolutely not. I have not seen The Cat Returns, and I know
that
one is
cats. Actually.
Yeah.
I know.
It's about cats. All right.
Yep, I know.
Anyway,
but I'm just saying. But yeah, I was just joking anyway.
Oh, for sure, it's all good.
All right, so let's get into some background.
Okay, really quick, just want to shout out some comments before we do that. Teddy is just bringing the ham. Teddy and Kogias, this was both of their first Miyazaki movies, so that's interesting. Kogias says, I felt really impressed by Ponyo when I first saw it. On a story level, I don't think that it held up the best, but the animation is so great. I mean, yeah, I think on a story level, it's just a very simple story. It's essentially the closest. I still think this movie is basically the closest thing that Ghibli has to, like, a Disney narrative. I feel like it's a little bit more complex than that, but it's a very simple narrative, all things considered. But you're absolutely right. I think the animation just really, really holds this up. So, yeah, Dragon, by all means, what is the background on this?
All right, so like Jacob was mentioning earlier, so this is post. Again, we're going a little out of order here for just kind of like thematicism, but this is post Howl's Moving Castle. So Miyazaki at this point, he's kind of chasing the Spirited Away kind of Mononoke era of just kind of top tier Ghibli, like kind of the Oscar winning era of Ghibli. And Suzuki suggested that Miyazaki return to kind of the Ghibli kids' roots, and kind of with the kids' movie again, to kind of cleanse the palate, so to speak, kind of refresh, recharge, cleanse the palate, bring in like the merchandising to a degree, which ultimately this movie did. Again, that's Suzuki, the producer for it, just a little bit. Again, he's not wrong, but it's Hayao, could we?
The Japanese Roy Disney.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just like kind of nudging, Hayao, just like, come on, Hayao, let's do something kind of commercial, a little bit of commercial artistry first and foremost, but we gotta pay the bills, we gotta fabricate the museum.
Mm-hmm.
We need new furniture, man, new cat furniture. So, Anyway, so the compromise ultimately was let's do a kids movie, but with subtle and big themes underneath with the environment. The environmental kind of themes of Ghibli, and that echoes back in It's Driving Me Nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hold on.
All right, there we go. So after Hal, Miyazaki took a year or two to recharge his batteries. Basically, which kind of leads to kind of an impromptu research trip. So, also the read between the lines here. This is not like document. I didn't fully check the years. I'm estimating on the times of production here, but this is probably when he's starting to get into the thing with Goro Miyazaki. So presumably, with like after getting done a big production, also maybe butting heads a little bit with Goro Miyazaki, he's kind of recharging his batteries and getting away from it all. Presumably, this is when Goro is working on Tales from Earthsea, and it's like that's anyway. Sorry, this is like a Tales from Earthsea is basically this production where Miyazaki's son was doing his first, I believe, his first animated feature, and he was kind of at a point where he was kind of casting dispersions upon his son. This is getting into like a lot of the kind of the famed daddy issues of Miyazaki, just kind of like kind of at full tilt there. Like the issues he had with his father being passed down to issues with his son.
Yep. Like I said, for all the ways he writes good parents and good fathers, he hasn't necessarily had the best track record himself, unfortunately.
Now, again, I can't say authoritatively because I'm saying Goro would have been in production with Earthsea at this point.
Right.
I don't know when Miyazaki started to bump up against him into production, but it would stand the reason that Miyazaki would need a vacation.
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of like the opposite of Spielberg, if you think about it, because Spielberg like basically spent his whole career essentially like trying to rectify his own negative experiences with his father, whereas Miyazaki kind of cultivated negative experiences as a father.
Well, it's funny you say that, T, because I want to make the case in this movie that this is the closest thing we get to Miyazaki's attempt at reconciliation with his son.
It is, and I know that is a part of the backstory. So yeah, go ahead with that.
So anyway, so he takes a trip to I'm going to butcher the name here. He takes a trip to Tomonara. Sorry. Anyways, he goes to this peaceful seaside town, Tomonara, and that basically is the setting for is the impetus for the setting of Ponyo, where he's kind of here. He's by this seaside town, and he's read this book called The Gate, where it's basically where we get the name Sosuke, and also the visual location of the house on the cliff. And Miyazaki, again, often throughout the other Ghibli works, he's kind of pulled from kind of other classic literature, or is kind of some some Disney inspirations. And I'm not saying that specifically this is a Disney inspiration here, but he basically pulled from the original Little Mermaid book, the Hans Christian Andersen,
and the whole seafoam angle.
Exactly. So that's basically the idea is that Miyazaki, he read that book as a kid. He called BS on the ending. He says, I don't like this ending. I would like to do it differently. It's ultimately what it boils down to. And presumably that coupled with the fact that, we've been doing a lot of Disney collaboration. We have Lasseter and Company, and, we have a good thing going on here. Let's, there are a lot of Disney comparisons. Why don't we basically do the Ghibli version of Little Mermaid to show them how cool it could be? Like fundamental, again, I'm reading between the lines on that one, but I'm just saying with Little Mermaid on his mind and him having collaborations with Disney would feel like, maybe it could. Just given the marketing went full tilt with that, it would not be. I don't think it'd be crazy for him to make the jump of maybe. So the way a Ghibli production goes with Miyazaki at the helm, and the way it went for this movie is he basically started with a bunch of watercolor sketches, very appropriately enough watercolor, and there was no real true script. Now, mind you, the actors have something to work off of, there's ultimately a kind of a sides and a shooting script for them, but essentially the movie just went pretty smoothly, where he does these sketches and then he kind of begins the storyboard process and everything goes from there. Storyboards were that good. So they employed a lot of new techniques, yet not computer animation. Ghibli had done a little bit of computer animation starting. I want to say starting with Princess Mononoke. They had done a little bit of computer animation here and there. Again, resiliently from Miyazaki. And Miyazaki's always been very arm's length with computer animation, using it pretty much via the cap system, which we kind of had with Mononoke, obviously, which for the tendril possession sequence. And here and there beyond that, and he did like a short computer animated film once. I believe it's Boro the Caterpillar. I think that's what his name was. But he to do this film, especially in the era of 2008, when we're kind of hand-drawn animation is a little bit in trouble on the state side, and I don't know, it just felt like he shuttered the computer animation section of Ghibli to rededicate it to, okay, look. No, we don't want any computer effects in this. We want full-on, hand-drawn, even if it's going to, kill us in the process. We've got to do this. And it shows, from what I understand, not a frame of computer imagery in this one. Which is impressive.
Yeah.
I know traditionally the Ghibli movies are not made with computer animation, but I'm just saying to fully, again, in the era of,
2008, that's definitely impressive.
Yeah. I'm just saying, think of it. This movie comes out same year as Princess and the Frog, where it's the whole thing where we're bringing it back. This is kind of like his answer to that as well.
The question is, was it actually animated on computers, or was it? I'm guessing, with drawing and to drawing tablets and things like that.
I won't say that's the thing. I don't think Ghibli often used the only.
I'm pretty sure this is hand drawn.
What I mean is, technically, drawing 2D in a computer is still considered hand drawn.
Yes. Now, what I'm getting at, Jacob, is to what I've only seen them use the tablet on the computer animated Boro the Caterpillar short. It's the only time I've ever seen them behind the scenes do that at Ghibli. Now, mind you, I haven't seen all the productions. I can't tell you full on if they had basically the computer clean up, kind of drawing directly in the tablet. That's been an option for them. I assume they've employed that at some point, especially during this kind of when they have a wing of Ghibli that's dedicated to kind of computer animation. They would probably have the tablets available, but for what they're going for, I don't think they did that for this film.
All right.
It's an educated guess, mind you, but I don't know. Anyway, but they are employing a lot of new techniques, which brings us to the background, like you mentioned, Jacob. Where again, as you and Tiki mentioned, the backgrounds are very much kind of like a children's storybook, and again, that's part of this minimalist approach. It's kind of like with that.
It's essentially like the good version of the background of M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water.
Okay.
Where Miyazaki's basically just like, I just want to make a bedtime story for my kids.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
That was good. But yeah, so it's kind of like with Batman the Animated Series, where, the idea is we have this really crisp, fluid animation, Batman the Animated Series, because we've simplified and streamlined the designs, which is kind of where we get this kind of look on all of our characters for the animation. By proxy, to kind of balance that out, we're going to make the backgrounds look very kind of like, kind of storybook-esque. And again, to also fit the whole Little Mermaid, Hans Christian Andersen, kind of point of inspiration. All right, let's see. So, which again is why we have such impressive motion of animation, fluidity of animation in this movie with so many fluids in it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, now here's something important we got to note here for the tomes of what we're doing with Miyazaki. So this is the movie where Miyazaki's really starting to feel his age. So this is very much a bridge in many senses of the word for The Wind Rises. This is where Miyazaki's kind of waking up to the realization of, I might need to consider retirement soon. Because when he's working on this, again, being as hand drawn as it was, he pushed himself too hard for many years working on all the Ghibli catalog, and that he was involved with for basically after 9 very intensive films. His eyesight and his hands are starting to go at this point. That's why he's like 24/7. He's wearing the giant Coke bottle glasses, and he's the hands are starting to tremble, which again is really troubling to him at that point. And again, it's not from it's natural. He's basically pushed himself to the peak of being in the top in his field. It's gonna wear on a body. So this is where he's starting to realize his days, at least as a director, are kind of numbered. So So the theme of the movie is very much kind of lighthearted apocalypse of innocence. That's kind of what they're going for here. It's just like let's kind of look at kind of where the world is going, but kind of look through the innocence of a child's purview, which I'm sure we're going to dig into a little bit
It's
later.
so weird that you say that because, like, even just rewatching this movie, it's like, yes, it is technically kind of like an apocalyptic movie, but like, it so doesn't feel like that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very unique in that way,
absolutely.
And probably like one of the few Miyazaki movies where nobody actually dies.
Right.
I mean, obviously nobody dies in Totoro, and I can't say for some of the others, but
Yeah, but Totoro had the sick mom though. Like, there was definitely the threat.
There was a threat of it. Yeah.
there's no threat of that here. Surprisingly,
Plus, I mean,
enough.
we possibly killed somebody off screen because had the other girl who lost her slipper. We don't know what happened to her.
I think I just like to believe it just lost her slipper.
I believe that. Look, you're right. I'm just saying, like, we don't know. Anyway, so again, like the compromise. Essentially it was like kind of like a Totoro with a real world kind of basically Totoro's reflection of nature in the real world, but with a little bit more intensity to it. Like where Totoro was very fantasiful. This is a more a little grounded. Where okay, if we flood the world, it's going to sink in a little bit.
I love how, like, I mean, we're kind of, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but one of my favorite elements of the film was just like how casually the whole island getting flooded and everything being underwater is handled.
Yeah,
it's just like, I guess you have to deal with it now. All right.
They're just like, hey, everybody, we're gonna go to get these people, and then we're gonna go back for the others.
Who wants some soup?
I mean, it is nice. It's like it kind of like keeps the stakes at an even pace, kind of.
Yep. So, movie made good money, got great reviews. Disney very much backing the film from a marketing standpoint very well. This is very much like Disney, like, hey, we're international. Look at us. That's pretty much what this was Disney's poster child. Which let's just say 3 years later, things became awkward. Because then we have the hanging chad with Ponyo is this movie we kind of was very much Nostradamus. It prognosticated the tsunami in 2011, which did have an impact on Ghibli, where they couldn't air this thing on television in Japan for a while.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It was it was always kind of the bittersweet nature of this film, and that's why Ponyo, I think over time. Not today, but I mean, for a while, Ponyo had kind of like drifted a little back, and that Ponyo, mind you, has been one of the 3 most merchandised Ghibli films. But I don't know; it feels like they didn't really give the film a push for a while because of that. Because I think it's like Totoro, Ponyo, and probably Spirited Away. Those are probably the 3 most marketable of the Ghibli films. And nowadays, you go to like a box lunch store, they're going to have like Ghibli saying again, let me tell you, the one never gets any marketing, never gets any merchandise. Porco Rosso, nothing, never. It's a travesty. I'm just saying.
I had to find out about Porco Rosso through frickin' Mars Girl of all people.
That's what I'm saying. It's just sad.
It is kind of odd.
Anyway, point being, Ponyo, still very beloved years later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that said, let's transition musically, if you will.
Oh God. Hi-yo.
Hi-yo.
Hi-yo. Hi-yo.
Hi-yo. Hi-yo.
May-azaki go. Hi-yo. 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 Hi-yo.
The funny thing is, the word "go" is actually the word for 5 in Japanese.
I have no complaints.
And May, 5th month.
Uh-huh. All right. So, speaking of that, so with the musical transition, the thing I left this out of that because I want to start with this. Okay, my favorite thing with Ponyo, I gotta be honest.
The music.
Yes, Jacob, the music. Joe Hisayashi's score. It's
possibly one of his most simple scores. It's very much a score where it's like he has like a couple of motifs that he just does a lot of stuff with. But I think that's what makes it so memorable, though.
Possibly my favorite, possibly the best, if not at least my favorite of the Miyazaki scores. Again, I'm sure there are Ghibli movies that have really impressive scores, but at least of the Miyazaki films that I have seen, I always go to Ponyo, man. I love what Izayashi did on this. It's beautiful. I love that supposedly he's kind of going a little bit after a Wagner on this. A little bit of like kind of a Wagner opera, and I think it translates. I think there is some Wagner in there. It's very sweeping. It's very whimsical and orchestral. It's so beautiful and with scope and the fairy tale vibe. I get chills when I hear the music from this movie, man. That's why I'm head over heels for Ponyo to a large degree. Every time I think of like just the music that underscores these simple scenes, it's like that's how you do it. Way to go, Joe.
It also just like really fits the sea shanty kind of vibe really well. You know what it kind of feels like? It almost kind of feels like a more elevated version of what John Williams was going for with his Jaws score outside of the iconic like da-da, da-da, like when the Jaws score is just kind of like in sea shanty mode, it kind of feels like a more elevated version of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it just feels like this is like how Jaws scores that movie himself. This is what Jaws' like version of the it's like, oh man, it's such a beautiful buffet. What a nice day.
Oh dear.
Oh look, there's a chubby boy on a raft. I think I'll partake.
Oh god.
Does anyone have a leg? Okay.
I love how casual this whole thing is. I mean, with what you're laying out, it is very much in character that, like, Jaws would be so casual about just full on eating somebody if he was in this movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like Jaws, the moment he shows up from the distance, instead of hearing dun dun, you're basically seeing he sees all these bathers, all these
and just
like it's the most beautiful feast I've ever seen in my life.
That's just Jaws from his perspective.
That's Jaws' perspective. Like, oh my goodness, look at all this.
He looks like, that one over there looks quite delectable. Now, someone needs to parody the Jaws poster. Like you've seen all those like Jaws poster parodies, but with like Ponyo take place with the shark and then like a piece of ham floating on top where the swimmer is.
Yep, just like it's a guy on a life raft with a giant ham sandwich.
And then Ponyo's just like, ah.
Or better yet. Okay, here's the Ghibli version of it. Okay, you have Porco Rosso. You have Porco like on a raft. He's shirtless. He's like, he's shirtless, just on like a little life raft, and just Ponyo's looking hungry underneath him.
And Jaws is just like in the same voice that Ponyo has, just like ham.
It shakes the foundation. Porco's like, whoa!
It's like you're made of ham.
Oh god.
Oh boy. This is why there's no flight in this movie.
There is running though.
There is. That was also another little fact to it I wanted to throw out there. And interestingly, one of I want to say, now mind you, I haven't really seen. None of us, I don't think, have seen Castle Cagliostro, unless Tiki has.
I've seen parts of it. I don't think I've actually seen the whole thing.
Well,
I'm trying to figure out which one has which dub is the best one to watch.
Well, regardless, the point being, the jury's out on if there's flying in that one. But let's just say, for argument's sake, this it seems like there's only two Ghibli films without flight at all, and that would be this and Princess Mononoke.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. And again, that's presumably Miyazaki like actually going against type on that one. He knows, okay, they're all expecting me to glorify machinery and flight, and that's what they're all expecting. But you know what? I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna get an Oscar for that, or at least an Oscar nomination for that.
And there is no flying in Cagliostro.
Oh, there we go.
According to Google, there's no flying there.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about Fujimoto.
Fujimoto, I really like Fujimoto as a character.
Yes, I think he's.
I think he really kind of steals the show. And you know what? Ko Gias says he did say that he thinks Ponyo is kind of annoying the boy is boring, but both the parents of the kids carry the film. I did like I can see an argument for Ponyo being kind of annoying. I don't think she is. I think she's adorable. I don't really think that Sosuke is boring either. I think when we break down his character, I think there's very much a kind of a running theme that goes with Miyazaki kids, that he's kind of like being forced to grow up a little bit too fast given the circumstances. But with all that being said, the adults absolutely carry the film. I mean, like, I love the I love the parents. I love the elderly folks. This might have the best elderly women in any Miyazaki movie, because that is another running trope. So yeah, I think the adult characters in this movie, in spite of it being so kid centric, they really do shine. I can't argue with that.
So Fujimo's got a lot going for him. Where he's probably a more defined and at the very least, proactive version of King Triton in terms of what our parallels are here between this and like the Little Mermaid. You know, he's like a practical version of a wizard, in which, you know, I just love the, you know, kind of the idea there with, it's kind of Miyazaki's take on magic, where it's like, okay, so yeah, he's a wizard, but he's like the most grounded. Like, he's just the guy. He's kind of a plainclothes wizard who, you know, he's collecting kind of elements from the undersea life, and he's kind of channeling like the life force energy of it into kind of like, you know, basically his means to flood the world, presumably.
And basically a new dawn of the ocean.
Yeah, I just love the backstory that this guy, he was a human who saw the error in the ways of man, and he fell in love with the embodiment of the sea, and because of this, he renounced his humanity in order to save the planet, the natural beauty of the planet. And I think,
I mean, that in itself could have been a movie.
I'm fascinated by. I'm so fascinated by Fujimoto. It really helps that I think Liam Neeson is such a great choice for Fujimoto in the dub, where it's solid casting. And I think it's very ironic casting, given that he plays Ra's al Ghul. Just the fact that he's another guy who's dedicated to his cause and saving the earth. You know, he's kind of the father figure, and he's he also kind of bonds with the romantic interest of his daughter.
Also, in some cases, Ra's al Ghul causes a flood.
Exactly. So,
Right.
That is said, I think it was very, very on point cast.
I will say this now, though. This is a movie where, and I feel like out of all of us, I think I'm definitely the one that's the most interested in like the dub versus sub debate. I do think that this movie has very, very solid casting in the dub department. Don't get me wrong, it definitely does. My only issue with it, I'm not saying that they're bad performances at all, because they are really good performances, but this movie is very distinctly Japanese. And because it's distinctly Japanese, I'm not going to lie that I do get thrown out of it just a little bit when I hear voices like Betty White or Liam Neeson, just because they are like, you know, they're such iconic celebrities in their own right. You know what I mean? So like, that's the only argument. Like, I did watch the sub version for the first time in preparation for this. And I will say, like I said, it's kind of like, you know, the dub version I definitely think has some strengths. But I honestly think with this movie being as distinctly Japanese as it is, I think the sub version is the way to go for this particular movie. But I can see the argument for either. I also kind of think that the voice of Ponyo isn't, like, if you think that Ponyo is irritating, which I personally don't, but I do think that it's a little bit more palatable in the original Japanese dialogue. So, you know, there's that.
There's a bit of Lilo in the voice.
Yeah. Another interesting factoid with the subtitle version, I assume this is a thing throughout like just Japanese culture as a whole. You'll have to tell me if they do this in My Neighbor Totoro, if anyone's seen the sub version of that. Is the kids just refer to their parents by their first names?
Well, no, he says mom and dad in this movie.
Have you seen the sub?
Well, no, I haven't. Okay, so you're saying in the sub?
I'm saying in the subtitle version, he refers to his mother as Lisa.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's just for this movie or if it's a Japanese thing across the board or what. Jacob, do you have any idea on that?
Well, in a lot of cases, they have like it usually depends on like honorifics and like level of respect. Like maybe it's just like highlighting the fact that he's only 5.
Uh-huh.
But like I'm not entirely sure. But a lot of times there are obviously distinct words for mother and father, and even then they're like different. There might be different ones depending on the situation. Like mother would be like father, for example, is like oto-san or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I said I haven't seen the sub version of this, so I don't, or any of the other ones. I don't think, and I do watch a lot of subbed anime, and like even now they refer to them as still call them like Oto-san, Oba-san.
Okay.
I think Oba-san is like
Yeah,
grandmother
so
or
it might just be a thing
aunt.
with this movie, which I think is interesting.
So like I said, maybe it's just because he's 5 and doing something different. I have no idea.
Maybe it's because the parents, like, obviously they're not split up, but they are dealing like, like the father's not at home. Maybe it's just kind of like the way that the kid's being. I think it's supposed to be a characterization thing. I just think it's interesting that it does not get carried over between the two versions. So it's just one of the things I wanted to know. All right. Anyways.
All right. So real quick, just to round out Fujimoto. Kogias brought up his look, his design. I love that he is very it's a goofy look on a grounded modern day wizard. Is there something wonderfully kind of goofy about this distinguished Liam Neeson performance coming out of this very
No, I love it. I love it. It did make kind of like an instant impression on me, like the first time I saw the movie.
It's very kind of like a Beatle or a David kind of David Bowie sticking his finger in a light socket kind of a look to him,
Right.
Like, and it doesn't necessarily explain like how he has these elixirs, what he's able to do with them, or anything like that. You don't really need to know how he does all that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love that here. Technically, he is our villain, but again, it's a thing where because he is planning the end of humanity. So that technically makes him the villain. But
he's
again,
so fucking likable, dude. He might be the single most likable character in the whole damn movie, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but
of course, we even meet Brunhilde, his daughter, and who kind of like the Little Mermaid sneaks away from home.
Yep. And she falls in love with a human the first time she goes to the surface, much like the Little Mermaid.
Yep.
So it's interesting that for someone who's renounced humanity, he's oblivious to the very human dynamic that he has. The very human parental struggles that he's going through now with Brunhilde. Yep. And again, like gets so stressed out and trying to prevent this, it ultimately causes a tsunami. So again, it's the struggle of the parent. And again, it's the fact that he's not intentionally evil, but he is in over his head. His job is to let nature take its course, and he's facilitating that. But it's interesting.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so should we talk like Ponyo, or do you want to talk about the house on the cliff?
I think we should get to Ponyo. I mean, the setting, like we already kind of talked about the setting. We can go through it more as we go along. But I think the great thing about the setting, just in general, not just the house on the cliff, just the whole coastal setting is just kind of like how tied to the sea this island is. It's like where the whole thing could literally flood and essentially all the townspeople basically have this is just life. We'll deal with it.
Yep.
Okay, so Brunhilde, she escapes into the world. She gets swept up in the gunk and pollution, and is in peril, being stuck in the jar. Being this big, awesome, adorable fish that gets stuck in like this jar by like some like trash scale, like some giant net that's kind of scrubbing the bottom of things.
Her jar gets found by a little boy by the cliff named Sosuke.
So Sosuke here, I like Sosuke. He's cute. He's nice. Again, he's very much, he's very much like, as we established with Castle in the Sky, Miyazaki loves white hats. He loves like the model, kind of like the model child. He's trying to put a good influence out there in the world. So what he's doing is he's showing this is what kids should behave like.
He struggles to get this mysterious fish out of the jar. So carefully, he hits the jar with a rock.
which thankfully, the movie could have gone a very different direction had he not hit it just the right spot.
Yeah, like
Would have been a short movie.
It's like admittedly not the best way, but probably the only way he could think of at the moment. So,
Yep.
and respect to him, the only thing he managed to cut was his own thumb.
Yep. Cut his thumb, and then the fish licks the thumb and magically healed.
It's like she developed a taste for human blood.
Which I still argue is the genesis of the ham. I think that's why she likes the ham. I mean, there's nothing saying that's not the case. Frankly,
No,
I'm
that
just
makes
saying,
sense. I can sign off on that. I think that
I always saw like ham as like it was like the first thing she actually wanted to try, and then she ended up loving it.
I'm just saying, she said no to that bread, and then she ate the thing that reminded her of the blood.
He's basically like the little kid who, when they eat the sandwich, just dissects it.
Yeah. So there's a lot to be said for the kindness of a boy freeing the captured fish. It's just the freezer from confinement. In a sense, it's kind of it's kind of like it's kind of in contrast to the negative representation of man that we just saw, in which it's like pollution. Like, this is what trapped her in the first place. But some good people out there will do something to help the environment. They're gonna free the fish. They're gonna do their part when they didn't have to.
And she doesn't, at this point, she doesn't even fully understand what's going on, but she knows that she's drawn to this nice young boy.
Yeah. He freed her. There's a curiosity, it's like, again, she's a fish. He's a kid. It's like, man, I wonder what it'd be like to have legs. It's kind of, it's a curiosity. So again, it goes from kind of like there's kind of like this is going to be a very weird comparison, but just bear with me. It's kind of like a G-rated, more light-hearted version of Shape of Water.
Oh God! Oh,
I said very
No.
G-rated.
I
said G-rated,
and also gender swap too, kind of.
I was literally about to say that one of the things I appreciate about the relationship in this movie is that they clearly love each other, but it's fucking platonic.
I mean, Tiki, an argument can be made either way on that, frankly. Seriously, you can look at it as a love story, but you're right. Fundamentally, it's more of a look. The movie is
They're
centered.
4-year-olds, Dragon.
Okay, first of all, 5-year-olds.
This is the exact same problem I have with fucking Nala and Simba getting together.
Look, I'm not. Look,
those two were not fucking childhood sweethearts. They knew each other when they were fucking toddlers. I don't like it.
Look, all I'm saying is you can make the leap that in parallel to the example that I made, okay, it goes from like, it's kind of like it's two different species. So again, it's kind of like an owner-pet thing. To then like a friendship, and then the suggestion again, hence the G-rated, the suggestion of maybe more. There could be, like, again, we end the movie on a kiss. So, and she keeps saying, "I love Sosuke." Now, mind you, I know I'm not taking it literally that she loves Sosuke. I get it. I'm just saying we're basing this on the Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid is a love story. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility that we're suggesting. It's, there's a bit of a connection there, but you're right.
Okay, look, all I'm saying, basically, like, if this was a Simba and Nala thing, like, where they're childhood friends that could potentially grow into a romance, I think it's done better than Simba and Nala. But it's still kind of in that territory of weird for me.
But I like taking romance or no, it's not in your face about it. That it's just there.
No, you're right. You're right.
Like, the whole thing is, again, like, we're using the term love throughout this movie a lot. And you can interpret love in many variety of ways. I'm just saying it's, you can look at it at the end of, like, maybe they're suggesting that, there is a connection being forged there, maybe not. I don't know. But again, they're so young, it doesn't really have to be romantic. It's just like, maybe they are is the beginning of a childhood sweetheart thing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's just the point being it's connection. Anyway. So, let's see. Anyway, so the metamorphosis later on here, I love how we have this evolutionary thing with her, where she goes from like fish to frog to kind of bird hybrid thing.
And as we've pointed out previously in both like Totoro and in even like Castle in the Sky. We
He's
saw
been
like
sitting on this design for a while.
we saw like prototype Ponyos.
Yep, May was secretly Ponyo.
It's like even like there are times when she has like kind of like a frog like grin
Mhm.
in Totoro, like and like I said, then there's that and the little girl in Castle in the Sky, like the little red dress that Ponyo has.
Yes.
It's just like it's like he had Ponyo's design in mind for years and he didn't know it.
I love the detail in the animation because I always the first time I watched Ponyo, I thought this was like a weird choice, but then it really grew on me over time. Where she keeps shifting between the frog look and the human look at times, and
It's
the
when
reason,
it's when she does magic.
yes, it's when she does magic, and it's it's almost like the Clayface logic from Batman the Animated Series. It's like the whole thing of like when tensing a muscle, you kind of revert to the one form, where it's like she goes back to like it's like her embracing like kind of her magic in the transformation is like her in the human form, but when she's using that magic for other things, she would have to kind of revert back to the frog form so she can do the magical thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I like that there's a logic to it where it's not explicitly spelled out, but you can kind of fill in the blanks,
I do love the dynamic between her and Fujimoto when he like takes her back home. I think he's just speaking of which, I just love the scene where he's like rising above the water to bring to like, it's like, give me back my daughter, you little boy. And then when he takes her back, he's just like she's actually like a spoiled lady. I want ham.
Oh,
Ham?
It's like you've eaten their food.
Yep. So with that, I do love the scene where again it's like we express the parental again fundamentally. Fujimoto he like every parent he doesn't want his kid to grow up, his little girl to grow up. So we literalize this with him like using magic to contain her in the fish form. He's like crushing the bubble a little to keep like no, don't grow.
And you know what else is a really fun detail with this guy?
What?
Essentially, he's kind of a gray universe as far as like his romantic interest goes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Which I love. I love that he's kind of like a way more eccentric version of Greg Universe, essentially.
Well, we can just jump to it now, but yeah, you want to jump to Ponyo's mom?
Sure.
Okay, so let me tell you, this, no joke, I think might be my favorite scene in the whole movie. I really love the scene of the trouble.
I think visually it just really pops for one.
Yeah, it's the thing. It's visual. Also, I love the tone. I love again the score is just this top tier here. We have the Hisaishi score that's going on here. Just this moment of just like a parenting crisis. You can again we don't know what the status of this because it's very much an ethereal kind of thing. She's an ocean goddess, so it's like is there an actual marriage that happened? Is it just it's unclear. It doesn't need to be clear. It's just the point being like the father kind of confronting the mother and just like I love that this guy's been kind of somewhat built up to be our villain. Again, not truly an evil person per the the Ghibli. The only evil Ghibli villain we've established is Mark Hamill.
Basically, which is very good.
Only evil one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the MVP scene, like him in the Spirit of the Ocean. Just the atmosphere. I love that she's as the ocean. She's kind of helping the other boats as she makes her way to this meeting. It looks beautiful. It's just the nature of man and sea working in tandem as co-parents. That's essentially what that scene is. We soften Fujimoto. He's a man. You can see that he's a man in love and in service of the sea / his wife.
Definitely worked out better for him than it did Davy Jones.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. But Davy Jones needs counseling, though.
Not gonna argue that.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
I mean to be fair, he did work a thankless job for 10 years and then he was kind of ghosted.
But I love that like Fujimoto, he automatically he's at a point where you think he'd be yelling at her or anything, but he's not. He blames himself. He's apologetic. He's in crisis, and you have like the Kate Blanchett's great where she plays this comforting ethereal being that's just like I love her version of hugging him where it's like her hand like just like absorbs him in like the luminescent water. It's great.
And of course like Fujimoto's biggest worry is turning into seafoam.
Yeah.
It's like he's ultimately concerned about his daughter.
But again, I just love that it's like the stress of the father and then the mother. It's kind of Miyazaki's.
You know what else is really endearing about that too is the fact that like we see firsthand just how many of these little like identical like fish things that he has as daughters, but he knows exactly who she is, and he's attached to her. He's attached to her personality. I don't know. Isn't that just endearing?
Well, I mean, it's apparently like she's like the one he exposed to like magic, and he does mention that like apparently the other ones haven't been exposed to the same magic that she has. Like, but it is kind of interesting to think about if all the others have like individual names and he knows each like who's who and all that. We haven't even talked about her sisters yet.
So with the parent-child thing in this, the building to the sisters with the parent-child dynamics in this film. So one could maybe take away that there are some parallels to Miyazaki's life here in a number of ways, as often there are in the Ghibli films, where a part of me reads this movie as it's an apology to Goro with a character who's very much. So apparently Sosuke is based on Goro when he was 5 years old.
Aww.
So one could say that's kind of like now. Well, that was I don't know in terms of when things were in production. I don't know if that was like this movie. Technically, I think would have been in production after Earthsea started. I'm not sure how many years Earthsea was in production for though. I think they started that in 2004, which is when Miyazaki went on his research trip. So that would suggest that he's starting that production. Maybe things don't go off well with him, and then he goes on vacation. However you want to read that, the point being is that he makes a character based on his son. Maybe because in general things are, we see in this movie Sosuke he has a distant relationship with him. He's on good terms with his father though, which I think is maybe like the idealistic hope of Miyazaki that the father's working all the time. We have the scene where like Lisa gets really upset when he has to cancel dinner, and we're doing like the Morse code like flickering lights thing, which I think it's so hilarious when like the boy wishes his father good luck.
He's like, and he's just like, thanks.
So like that's kind of to me that really feels like that's Miyazaki's acknowledgement of like his failings as a parent, but also his hope that his son will understand.
And to be fair, he did kind of reconcile. He even did say like ultimately say Earthsea was good, and even helped him even co-wrote from Up on Poppy Hill, that which Goro directed.
Yeah, so it's again not exactly a warm hug of a reconciliation, but it's kind of like the thumbs up from Poppy.
And I think he did. I think Goro did work on Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think he was involved in some capacity to that.
So again, on the flip side, with Ponyo and Fujimoto, though, again it's kind of the father who is again in the distance of the father, where again he's very much obsessed with his work, as we see from the start. He does love his daughter clearly, but that distance does allow the child to become more individualized from the parent, and that's kind of where the struggle comes from. So it's a little bit of like Goro's going his own way, creating his own art, where Miyazaki's like he's very much enraptured in what he's doing, and to a purpose that ultimately is constantly Miyazaki's always building to an ending. He's always building to, if I don't know how much time I have left, so I'm going to put everything I have in me on the screen. But what does that say for family life sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I'm saying that I could be completely reading into all of this. I'm just giving the themes of this movie and just giving what may or may not be going on behind the scenes, and at the very least, the boy being inspired by Goro. I don't know. So also, but the other signature of Miyazaki we do have that is tangible here is the strong-willed, awesome mom, which we have with Lisa. Lisa rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's probably one of the best moms in all of the Ghibli canon for sure, like easily.
I love me some Tina Fey, period. So this is great. I love the role for her here. I just love that she's a caretaker of both children and the elderly.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, I love how again, but by the way, I love how like it feels like a lived-in world. Tiki, don't you feel like there's a lot of like Lilo and Stitch kind of in this movie in terms?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, very much aesthetically for sure, but also just the fact of like we're on the coastal island, the sense of community. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of Lilo and Stitch DNA in this.
Also, like Ponyo there's a lot of Lilo in Ponyo. It feels like
Definitely, yeah.
it's kind of like what if Lilo was kind
Ponyo
of
was like a
Stitch?
Realistically like kind of bratty but still adorable little kid, much like Lilo.
Like Ponyo's kind of the weird combination of both Ponyo's kind of the combination of both Lilo and Stitch in a way.
A little bit, yeah, because she's got
what's
kind of the characteristics, of Lilo, but then also she's kind of like got the plot, characteristics of Stitch.
yeah, the extraordinary abilities of a Stitch, but again,
Mhm.
the characterization of a Lilo.
Right.
Also wears red.
Yeah.
All right. So it's also again I have a fan theory about Lisa. I have no idea. This could be coincidence. It's always like the one thing where all of our other names are seemingly traditional, Japanese names, where the one name that does not seem Japanese is Lisa. And my theory is that,
and in the dub, by the way, she is, like I said, she is Lisa too. Or not in the dub. I'm sorry, in the subversion, she doesn't get a Japanese name. She's just Lisa too.
my silly fan theory is that maybe it is again, maybe it's kind of like she's American. She immigrated to Japan.
I mean, her husband's a soldier, right?
Yeah.
Her husband's in
Well,
the
he's a
Navy.
Navy man.
So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Again, I don't really have anything to substantiate that. It just seems like
I do think from a characterization point of view, I do think she is very American.
No, she feels very American, and
kind of in the same way that Curtis is in Porco Rosso.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, her name would actually translated as Risa, so I don't know if that, because the L doesn't work in Japanese. So who knows?
Of course, Jacob.
Well, I'm just saying maybe that's just how they wrote Lisa, or maybe her name, or maybe that's how they changed her name for the subtitles and the dub.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe for this, but honestly, like even beyond the subtitles, it definitely sounded like they were saying Lisa in the original Japanese audio too. So.
It's also like a funny observation. They were saying that the American moms are terrible drivers.
Oh God, no! That's the one thing about her character.
Okay, well, not terrible driver. Sorry, not terrible. Reckless driver. She's good. But she's
all right, Miyazaki. All right, your old man tendencies are kind of showing there. That is a little bit of an outdated stereotype, but I'll let you have it. But you know what? It is fun. It is fun. I do like that we don't make a joke about it. I like that her reckless driving is actually kind of like one of her biggest strengths.
It's really cool. I mean, it's just shocking.
Right,
but it's really
right,
cool.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I mean, it allowed her to get away from the wave.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's great.
That's one of my favorite moments in the whole movie is just going like flooring it at the wave. Yeah.
You just had a moment like the little not the overpass, but like the little bridge between where the boats come in.
Like basically the canal kind of.
Yeah, like the canal thing, like the whole thing. They're telling her, no, you can't do it. Just oh God, they're over there. I still made. She made it.
It's like yeah, she almost put her 5-year-old son's life in danger because she didn't want to win.
But she's such a fun mom though too. Of just saying, hang on to something.
Yep.
Also, again, the coolest mom moment she has in the whole movie though is like when. Admittedly, again, Gilrek was like, "Hey, let's both get out of the car and look for the girl my son says he saw there." But I love that there's really again we showed there's a pointed element to the natural landscape that we're showing. We do have the tsunami taking effect. Sosuke just getting like swept away by the wind and her catching the kid in midair.
Yeah, totally.
So freaking cool.
It was.
But again, it's again love showing you there is some danger to what is happening in our story though.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So let's I guess let's. Oh, by the way, Tiki, did you catch the voice on Sosuke's dad?
It's Matt Damon, right?
Yep, Matt Damon.
Yeah. Once again, it's kind of like even though it's a small role, it's like all these people are doing a really good job. I just think they're too big of names for a movie that's so distinctly Japanese. So I do prefer the subtitles.
I will argue Liam Neeson, no matter what the dub does, it does never a wrong choice.
No, Liam Neeson's fantastic. I'm just saying. I don't know.
I don't care what
just
Doug
feel like
Walker
this
says.
movie
Liam
has
Neeson
such
was
an
a great.
authentically Japanese vibe to it that I kind of just prefer the subs. I
I
don't
don't
know.
care. I don't care
Both
what Doug.
versions are great.
I don't care what Doug Walker says. Liam Neeson was an excellent choice for this movie.
Did Doug Walker really criticize? How is okay? I will genuinely criticize the choice of Betty White because I think Betty White is straight. I love Betty White. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to poo-poo Betty White. I do think her voice is legitimately distracting in this. I think Liam Neeson, out of all the yeah, he's prominent, but I think he fits right in. Betty White, it's just kind of it's America's grandma in a movie that's so Japanese. But anyways, I digress.
So let's talk about our old folks. So we have kind of our golden girls here, if you will. We have Betty White.
Basically just the Golden Girls, yes, and I love it.
Miyazaki one night just kind of flipping through. Oh, this is so funny. I have to work this in.
Oh my god.
So we have Betty White, Cloris Leachman. So that's a little bit of a Castle in the Sky nod.
Mm-hmm.
And Lily Tomlin.
God bless Lily Tomlin. Just seriously, all three of these women are just obviously class acts, some of the best to ever do it. So
I have one issue with this whole movie, just one.
Okay.
And it's technically linked to Lily Tomlin. So her character, Toki, kind of her payoff is kind of pointless.
Yeah, no, I agree. Every time I watch this movie, I do think that there's going to be a little bit more with her character, and there's not. So
I mean, it just kind of. I mean, the early one does kind of show that she's stubborn, and ultimately, it does kind of work when Sosuke's running away from Fujimoto at the end. But even then, they just takes her to. They just takes them all to the undersea area anyway. So,
but that's the thing. We it's just that's here's the thing. In a vacuum, I love that scene. Okay, yeah. I think it's great. I think Neeson's acting is really on point. Again, Lily, Toki's payoff being she's there to help the boy after she's been kind of casting aspersions upon the fish. In a vacuum, that's good. Here, the scene itself plays well, but from a plot standpoint, that scene makes no sense whatsoever. It's completely pointless. It's just what does he know? He's we don't have time for this. And it's hey, jump for it. Well, we're still going to drown by the giant wave of fish that's coming at us. It's just, there's just...
I mean, he's a 5-year...
It's cool. It's a good scene, but it makes no sense.
And, I mean, to begin to play devil's advocate, he doesn't know that.
Well, who doesn't know that?
I mean, Sosuke doesn't know he's going to be fine.
Well, yeah, you're right. He doesn't know he's going to be. Well, no, you're right. He doesn't know he's going to be fine. But it's just the argument there she's making. It just feels like we need Toki to say something and to show I've changed, ish. I think. Just I'm going to do something nice, but we have no room for that in the runtime. So I'm gonna say he's lying, and you're going to jump into my arms, and we're going to say, oh yeah, he wasn't lying at all.
I mean, yeah.
That's all. I'm just saying it's a very redundant scene. It's cool. I love the run animation, the idea of him jumping into the arms, and then just it's wonderfully animated. And again, I love how frustrated Fujimoto is going. I love how desperate he is, to kind of plead to the boy. Listen, we don't have time. Look at the moon.
Yeah.
It's great. Just again, it's the one moment in the movie where I'm saying I think it's all flowing so nicely, and then we just kind of have a bit where he's kind of Miyazaki's wanting to throw something cool in there. That's what it feels like.
I mean, again, might I say this?
We don't care.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the old folks, it's kind of I would make a leap here that it's kind of the relationship between water as the fountain of youth and this whole theme of renewal, because later on the idea is the old folks come out of the water and says it's a new beginning or something it's
we actually like walking.
Yeah, we like walking. So again, presumably it's not a literal fountain of youth, but it's the idea of I mean, really, it's once we achieve balance, it's kind of the theme of adventure and potentially romance kind of reinvigorates and revitalizes, the elderly. It's kind of look at Up. Up is again, it's not a literal fountain of youth, but it's Carl Frederick feels a lot younger than he had been acting in Act 1 by the end of that movie.
And the great thing about that also is they were all so invested in Sosuke and his quest and Sosuke and Ponyo's quest.
Yeah.
I guess they're like rooting for him, like wanting to know how he's doing and all that, which is adorable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take a minute, like go back to something that I feel like we kind of glanced over. When Ponyo first appears in her human form, and this is what, like, kind of on the subject of Lisa, I love how quickly Lisa takes to, like, okay, this girl is basically my surrogate daughter now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was the middle of a tsunami. He's like, okay, grab the kids, get in the house.
No, I know, but it's like she just jumps into mom mode like so naturally, like, you know, not just getting her to shelter, but, you know, doing the whole like, all right, let's have some hot tea with marmalade, and, you know, I love the surprise of the ham and the ramen noodles.
So we got Tiki. We got to properly talk about the ham.
We got the ham. Okay,
the food.
I wish that the egg wasn't there because I am allergic to eggs, so I just pretend that the egg isn't there. But
the egg can't hurt you, Tiki. It's not really there.
The egg just looks so fucking delicious. It's crazy.
Tiki, isn't that the wonderful thing about food animations, that you don't have to worry about eating?
Exactly, right.
Tiki, you can appreciate the egg. You can look at that egg. You can imagine the best tasting egg you could ever not eat.
Dude,
okay, well, to be fair, a good example of that is the bacon and eggs from a Goofy movie.
Well, that's what I mean. There's
your that, but it still looks delicious.
Exactly.
The thing is, like,
that's all the eggs you'll ever need.
I wonder if they serve that at Ghibli Park.
That's a good
I don't
question.
know. I feel like if they didn't, it'd be a huge missed opportunity.
We know where they do serve it, though, on People versus Food.
Oh, God.
Like, sponsor us.
Please.
But yeah, it's like the freaking food animation, like, dude, like they always go out of their way to like make the food look like the most delectable thing you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those are like a legitimate like I mean, those are basically instant noodles. I mean, they literally say like wait 3 minutes was like the standard time for instant noodles.
I'm not even gonna lie. I bought a couple packages of yakisoba ramen just because I rewatched this movie.
It's so, again, it's really adorable how she's like knows that Ponyo likes ham and she's surprising her with the ham.
With the ham ramen.
Yeah.
And then the food, it's like, careful, Ponyo, it's hot. And when she like guzzles it down immediately, she's like, hot.
Yep. So, by the way, I love that, Sosuke's father, again, being a Navy man, he made sure, even though he was away from his family, they would be prepared in event of emergency. We're thinking about it. Their house is like on the most, essentially the tallest part of the island. It's, they have a generator, they have a propane tank, and they have, the water tank. So they're covered in case of emergency. So it is like the coziest scene in the whole movie, them inside that house during the tsunami.
And like you just have like Ponyo like being amazed by like the plug-in lights.
Yeah.
It's like she spent her entire life under the ocean. Even like the most mundane things to us are going to seem wondrous to her.
Yeah. So yeah. So let's see. Oh, by the way, I just wanted with the food animation real quick. I just wanted to, so again, when we have like early in the movie, so again, I like how our acts are separated. Act 1 essentially ends with boy loses fish, and it's he's very sad. After Lisa is like she's holding the boy, and he's crying after his fish is going back to after the crazy kind of David Bowie looking man is taking his fish.
And it is honestly kind of adorable how Sosuke is like, if I put the green pail on there, maybe she'll know it's home.
Yeah, it's very nice. But I love it on the way back. She got him an ice cream to cheer him up. The kid looks so sad, and she takes a lick of it. It's melting.
Yep, she wants a lick of it herself.
There's some great ice cream animation right there.
I wonder what flavor it is.
I mean, it looks vanilla, but I don't know.
Oh, it had a little bit of I thought I saw a little bit of a greenish tint to it. So
did you see? This is where I'm color paranoid. I mean, Tiki, I don't know. He doesn't know.
It's the same ice cream that they have in Kingdom Hearts, Jacob. Obviously,
the sea salt ice cream.
Yes.
Hey,
the sea salt ice cream is blue though.
Yeah, I know, but it's by the sea. It's like the generic sea salt ice cream that isn't blue.
I still want to try sea salt ice cream.
Dude, I want to try sea salt. Don't
Apparently, they created that because like Tetsuya Nomura had some at like the Tokyo Disney Sea or something like that, and wanted to
oh my
include.
god! Okay.
You know, there's a chance there's a chance they have that at Cold Stone, Jacob.
Oh, nice. I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, look into it.
All right.
Anyway, let's see. So then, of course, we have it's really nice seeing Sosuke again in the position of like, he's kind of the man of the house. We have a few things to signify that, he's wearing the hat, the navy hat that his father presumably gave him. And, he's comforting mom when she's disappointed that dad's not there. And she's essentially drunk in the movie. At least for a moment, it looks she's kind of drunk, or at least tired and despondent. She's,
Yep, she angrily opens the can and downs the alcohol.
Yep. So and again, it's really nice seeing the boy cheer up.
Like, which is nice. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's basically it. It's just nice.
Now, admittedly, again, it's a plot thing. We don't really care in this case, But
we don't care.
Exactly. It is a stretch that she's going to leave the 2 5-year-old kids alone during like the aftermath of the tsunamis to check on the old folks. It's a buy. Okay, we need it for the story to work. But it's a buy.
Again, we don't care.
Yeah, because again, it gives us like Act 3 of this movie is utterly beautiful in terms of like just again we've taken. It's almost like it's kind of like a lighthearted. This is a terrible comparison. This is kind of like a lighthearted. I haven't seen this movie too, but yet. It's kind of more like a lighthearted interpretation of The Grave of the Fireflies. It's kind of these two kids in kind of like a.
Definitely didn't expect that comparison.
Well, I'm just saying in the sense of it's two kids in essentially kind of a disaster zone of sorts, but only it's kind of through the optimistic child, kind of perspective,
Yep.
Instead of just completely presumably war torn and just devastated as that movie probably is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Takahata.
Yes. Like basically that's the reason why a lot of Takahata's future works are a bit lighter in tone.
Yeah, where it's like Takahata watching is like seeing everyone crying in the theater. Maybe I went a little too far on this one. I gave it such a nice title too. I gave it such a lighthearted title.
Yeah. But like, speaking of which, we didn't really touch upon it. I kind of mentioned it in my opening, but like during the actual tsunami earlier, like after like Ponyo's, like her running across the waves
and tell them how the waves look.
Yeah, how do they always look? I don't know.
The giant fish waves.
They look very good.
I was saying the fact that we're running so this is the whole thing in the movie. So I love that we play with the child's imagination with how we visualize a lot of the streamlined minimalist kind of style, where it's like our giant waves, which to some degree you have to imagine like a natural limitation of the animation of like, okay, look, we're doing this all hand drawn. We are going to be here till we're in our 90s.
But like you said, Dragon, it looks like something out of a storybook background come to life. And the waves are honestly one of my favorite aesthetic choices in the whole damn movie. They are not animated realistically at all. Nothing about the storm is animated realistically at all. Like towns can't just flood like that, and we can't just drive through water like that, But I love how the whole thing, the whole aesthetic of it, just comes together so well.
And of course, like I said, one of the most iconic scenes of the movie and probably the entire Ghibli canon, Ponyo running across the waves.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely helped by Joe Hisaishi's score.
Yes. So again, I love the way we can get away with that. Is like it's kind of this unspoken, like again, it's the theme of the movie, and that it's like kids' perspectives on like a lighthearted, kind of like childlike imagination.
It's Sosuke's just watching her run across the waves, like there's a girl on the water.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, like the way we're showing the waves as fish, and the way we're able to like kind of traverse things by the end, where it's just the idea that it's it's a lighthearted perspective on things.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep harping. I love when we can play perspective and apply it to the narrative like we're doing here, and I think it's just really cool the way in which we do that. So, Act 3 really stands out because it's on one hand, it's
I'm
kind of
sorry.
this.
One more thing about the animation, as far as like, because the waves, we've gushed about the waves for sure, but can we just gush about the variety of sea creatures on full display here? Like everything from the crabs to the fish. Like, I love it. It's so colorful. It's so eclectic. There's so much of it. There's so much movement.
And the jellyfish too.
Like honestly, I feel like it's like if Finding Nemo kind of sets the standard for like, I don't want to say realistic underwater animation, but definitely like Finding Nemo's going for a little bit of a more realistic tone. This is just like what underwater life would look like in again like a storybook, and it's just great. It just really pops off the screen. All right. Anyways, yes, Act 3. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So Act 3, it's this great, somewhat chilling visual again in the sense of, especially looking back on this movie in terms of like knowing what Japan would go through 3 years later. It's just this, it's this chilling but adventurous visual of the flooded town up to your door, and you see none of the people. But like none of the people, like what I mean. Like we have like people like on boats and everything. So we see they're okay, but it's the idea like until you get to that point, it's like a deserted seaside town flooded to the gills, and just this visual of these two intrepid children on this boat that she grew thanks to the magic, on like a little toy boat, just kind of going through the town. It's so lighthearted, but again, there's like just an element, and again, it's the whole point where again, it's kind of like this lighthearted version of like maybe a darker reality. Again, kind of like a bit of what Totoro is kind of traversing, where it's like we're putting a smile on sad events. Where this is kind of like
I mean,
we're
I didn't
looking
even
at
think about it, but yeah, it is eerily prophetic to the typhoons that Japan would go through.
yeah. So it's just really it was really the chilling thing when people look back on Ponyo. It was like, oh man, they really predicted like kind of where we're going, but again, putting a
Right.
lighthearted kind of spin on it.
Yeah.
But again, it's like the kids are on an adventure to find mom in the now, and the now full size candle powered boat. And I love that it's candle powered and everything.
Okay, can I just say I want a Ponyo boat ride with these boats as the ride vehicles, dude. Come on now. Can we please get that?
Not the little candle boats.
Not the little candle boats. No, but seriously, have like the oversized candle in the middle on every ride vehicle. It'd be so good. It'd be so good.
Yep.
The capacity on that would be shit because it could only fit 2 people per boat, but it'd be so cool.
Not the little motor boats. Anyway, so it's the inspired image of the film. It's cute as the Dickens. Just seeing these two kids riding this.
I love his
like
little
this.
sailor hat too.
I know, and I love it. Later on, it's like the hat gets shrunk when the boat gets shrunk back.
Uh-huh.
But I love the logic that the candle also grew with the boat.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
So again, it's an intrepid image. So, and again, it's like we see during this scene, Ponyo is embracing humanity outside of Sosuke and his family, with like the family with the crying baby.
Like, she's like the soup's for him. Like she's like, and the mom's like, he can't eat the soup, but I can, and turn it into milk.
Yeah.
And just like, and when she gives a sandwich, it's like, here, have more milk.
Oh God. I'd like to think that Japanese culture is like a lot more like matter of fact and less prudish about breastfeeding, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but here's the scene that really touched me. This is kind of like the thing from Castle in the Sky with the conductor. Serious. I still love that scene, that bit so much. When the conductor saves the kids from getting shot,
Yeah.
But it's this little moment where what I believe one of the other Navy men is like they're on the boats doing the rescue effort, and they basically they say, okay, we're going to send a boat to help the seniors out too. Basically, he salutes Sosuke, and it's like this great sign of respect to like one sea captain to another.
Sure.
I just love that, Sosuke getting his little moment in the sun there, where again he's kind of like he's kind of the man of the house, and he's very much in his father's shoes, and it's like he's getting respect from the other, from an adult captain to him. It's like it's a real nice moment for the kid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So again, picturesque as it gets, just seeing like this flooded town. You see the undersea life in the very clear, unpolluted waters. It looks beautiful.
It does.
But then we have like kind of the drama of Ponyo's getting tired, and the magic wears off, and I love that the moment the magic wears off and we're back to the surface, reality is seeping in. Sosuke gets upset. He sees his mother's empty, deserted car, and she's missing. And he's a 5-year-old kid. He's getting a little sad that, oh no, what if something bad has happened? Against the reality of like a tsunami has hit this seaside town. Things might not be okay.
Yeah, I feel like finding the car is like the one time the movie has like some genuine stakes and pathos to it. And I'm not saying the movie would be lesser without it, but it is nice that we do get one moment where we're like, okay, yeah, no, this like we're having fun, we're going on an adventure and stuff, but there are stakes here.
And it's kind of like in Totoro, where we had kind of our lows moment in Totoro, where it's like mom might not be doing great, and we're acknowledging
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And again, I love how here we kind of do it, but then instantly we have this like Ponyo serves her role. She's providing, it's this very human gesture of comfort and companionship, which she's kind of there for.
Mhm.
Just like seeing like the tired girl like carrying the boat, and it's like, here's your boat, let's in this. It's so cute and humble. Just like then they walk through the tunnel in which Ponyo is kind of reset back to fish form.
Yeah.
And the way Sosuke just desperately grabs, like picks her up, and then runs her to the water.
Yeah.
I feel like that moment is almost the equivalent to when the cat loses his voice in Kiki's delivery service.
A little bit, yeah.
Mhm.
But fortunately, Ponyo does get better, and whereas like we never hear the cat talk again.
Since you brought that up with Gigi, Miyazaki always had this great comment about, he was asked like, why doesn't the cat talk at the end of the movie?
Because he had nothing left to say.
Exactly.
And I also just like to think it's a metaphor for growing up, and some things from your childhood you just can't get back again.
But I love that Miyazaki just distilled it down to the very, very matter of fact. It's like,
right.
You didn't have anything. It's like the end of a joke almost. Well, you didn't have anything to say. This is ultimately what it boils down to.
You know what that reminds me of, though?
What?
It reminds me of the fucking Tom and Jerry movie. Well, why haven't you talked before now? I don't know. I guess I just didn't have anything to say.
Tiki, we have like the Japanese animation masters giving us a little nugget of wisdom. I'm so glad you're mentioning like the Tom and Jerry movie no one wants to talk about.
We've got to have money, Dragon.
Yeah.
Money.
All right. So, yeah, go on.
All right, do go on.
Okay, the bubble reunion.
Yep, they're all down in the bubble that Grandmere created.
Seeing the old folks like so jovial and energetic it's so delightful, isn't it?
It is.
I love that it feels so much like the medal ceremony from Star Wars to some degree. It just feels like this is like, oh man, everyone's just so happy we've made it. Like we're across the finish line. They're all saying, "Oh boy, so we're gonna put the boy to the test. We're gonna see how it works." Kind of like Spirited Away, we're all boiled down to like the test at the end. But it's a lot more. Less
and
stakes.
this is another thing with Ghibli is that it's like I kind of feel like obviously like Princess Mononoke has a big like cataclysmic climax, but like that's one of the outliers. A lot of the Ghibli films kind of come down to like personal tests, and this one is definitely no exception.
It's just this excellent finale for a children's film where like I love that in building to this we saw, and on a rewatch this hits home so well, the fact that the old folks are kind of clamoring, oh man, I wonder what Lisa's saying to the ocean goddess over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we ultimately figure out that, oh god, that's basically the conversation that's going on there is Ponyo's mom is basically laying out that, okay, look, if she opts to be human, I need you to take care of my child. Can you do it for me?
Mhm.
That's probably a really pathetic scene that's going on there. It's a very it's very moving, and again the fact that it's like we don't need to be there for that scene, but we can infer what happened on the rewatch. I love that.
Yeah.
It's very good show don't tell.
Yeah. So Sosuke, he basically was tasked with he's given the question like, hey, do you
Would you love her across? Would you love her across both forms, or basically?
I love all the Ponyos.
Yep. And I love how it goes to show again like how polite he is. Like he's meeting like the goddess of the sea. And he's like, "How do you do?"
Yeah.
I said it's just how polite he is. Like a literal deity. And he's just like basically like, "Hi."
And again, also when the moment we re-enter and we put the bubble around Toki and Sosuke and everything, again that Joe Isayashi score, it's fantastic.
It is.
Anyway, it's just like a swell of like, oh my god, it's like you can finally breathe again once the characters can breathe. Like, okay, we're all okay. There's mom, she's okay. We're all good.
Ironically enough, it's underwater.
Yes. Well, in a bubble though.
I know, but it's still technically breathing underwater.
We're working on SpongeBob logic here.
At least there's no fire underwater. It's okay. It's like, wait a minute.
It's like, hey, if we're underwater, how can there be a...
That's it. Ah!
It kicks the log.
Like, there's like a fire in the Krusty Krab, and we have like a fire department. It's putting it out.
It's like, wait. It's like, no, okay, let's go.
Anyway. So, but yeah, so it's like so kind of in contrast to her father, Ponyo, instead of renouncing humanity for magic, in service of the ocean, Ponyo she renounces magic for humanity.
Yeah.
I still love so after she makes her choice. It's such a small moment, but I really love it where Fujimoto he gives Sosuke the boat back and he says, "Remember me kindly, please."
Yeah, and he's like 10. And obviously, he's also like, take care of my daughter.
Yeah, it's very looking out for his kid.
Remember me kindly, please thing. Like that to me is like one of the biggest standout moments of the whole movie.
Remember me kindly.
I love how much that like sums up Fujimoto's character, where it's like, in spite of him being technically the antagonist, this dude just means well, right? I really don't think there's anything outwardly malicious about anything that he's doing.
He's basically like a good example of like an antagonist, but not a villain.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I really think he's just a very, very standout character. He honestly might be one of my all-time favorite Ghibli characters.
He is pretty awesome.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's kind of like that. Every parent just sort of like mind you, there's some parents out there like I've been reading about lately who are completely irredeemable. But for the most part, you have like a parent who is maybe a little more tight-fisted or a little bit more like even like a King Triton from Little Mermaid. Okay, meant well, understands that he could be seen. Like there was a moment like look at Stoic from How to Train a Dragon. All right. Moment where he seemed a little monstrous, or he seemed like he was really hard on the kid when he didn't mean to. But there's a moment in private where he's realizing the error in the ways there. So this is kind of that moment brought to the surface.
Stoic. I mean, I'm sure we've brought this up before, but like, holy shit, that moment where him and Hiccup have their big like falling out, and Stoic basically kicks Hiccup out. But then we see that like 2-second facial reaction of guilt on Stoic's face. Like, oh,
exactly.
It's literally giving me chills just thinking about it.
So that's what I mean. Like when he's literally he takes the step back as he's taken aback by like just the deep breath.
That 2 seconds might be one of the single most impactful couple of seconds of animation in the entire DreamWorks canon.
So in that respect, you have parents who sometimes they'll make mistakes, it'll be harsher than they meant to be, and it'll be the thing. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, when you have a well-meaning parent who might be harsher, have to lay down the law just to get for the betterment of their child. There's like at the end of the day, in the future, when it all works out, hopefully they want known like remember me kindly, don't remember the trauma that I inflicted, or don't remember like the bad stuff that the mistakes I made along the way. Like
Right.
Sosuke, please. Remember me kindly. Don't remember that thrown in scene that looked cool and made me look kind of villainous. Right, I threw all the don't remember that. Just remember all the other cool stuff.
Don't remember that I almost inadvertently flooded your entire city.
Right.
But like he's like, remember me as like the kind man who is simply looking out for his daughter.
Yeah, I love that.
So very nice. Everything is nature balance is kind of restored again. I love that it is on an ambiguous note. That presumably the flooding will go down, but it's like these people they're still a flooded town at the end of this movie.
Yep, nature has been restored after all.
Yep. But again, it's also the responsibility of. I think the idea too is that with a natural disaster that has occurred, we're either seeing like how beautiful like the sea can be, and this is like an inspiration to okay, now we should try to preserve this, or it's like this is what happened because we had like a little bit of pollution in there, we had a little bit of like the world being in crisis, maybe we should do something about it so we can avoid something like this happening again. I don't know, but it's food for thought. Like the point being, it could be like it's a sobering lesson, or it's just like something we just kind of like an experience that happened, and we're just kind of appreciating the beauty of it. So we end on like Ponyo just like again. We end on a freeze frame. Interestingly enough, we end on like
I feel like this is like one of the other things that Miyazaki like intentionally made like kind of Americanized. It's a very Americanized ending.
Yeah.
It might be the most traditional, like, closed book ending of any Miyazaki movie, I think.
Yeah, we kiss the fish and we roll credits,
Right, exactly.
I mean, the whole thing is like kiss the bubble when you get to the surface. She will become human.
Yep, and so I love that she's like floating in midair because the last magical thing she'll ever do, presumably. So we end on like the note of like she's kind of floating there. She's probably gonna fall, but she's floating for a moment.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, he'll catch her. I mean,
no, I'm sure. I'm saying he'll either catch her. She's gonna like fall on top of him, but either way, she'll
that'll be like,
fall.
Yeah, that'll be like a Ponzu and Cheetah situation where like it's all magical, but then he's like, oh god.
Yeah.
Just like Suzuki saying like, wait a minute, what about gravity? He says exactly.
but yes. It is a suitably magical way to end the movie.
Yeah.
But then we also end on that damn song, and like if the actual music and score of this movie wasn't enough, that song comes in and you're just like, yes, give it to me. It's such an earworm. Ponyo by the sea. Oh my god, it's like the cool version of Puff the Magic Dragon, dude.
Yeah, it's a very catchy song.
All right, final thoughts, gentlemen?
Final thoughts for me, look, there's something pure and beautiful about this movie. It's about the joys of friendship and the hope that I'm gonna pull like a obscure Disney quote. I'm gonna go for it. It's kind of like that unspoiled spot that Walt Disney talked about. It's about like just kind of like people just go to be entertained. They don't want to have to worry about all this stuff kind of bleeding into it. Where it's just kind of like you go to a movie to escape your problems and just kind of have like an experience and just kind of like not worry about it. So it's the hope that unspoiled spot of entertainment and just kind of joy will kind of guide us through disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miyazaki absolutely succeeded by getting us to kind of wake up and appreciate not. Sorry, I think ultimately of all the movies that Miyazaki's kind of done with this sort of theme, he's obviously been an environmental theme in a lot of his movies. I think here is just whether intentional or not, in terms of like how much he really wanted to really press his thumb to the scale and kind of like achieving this, but. I think Miyazaki succeeded finally in getting us to kind of wake up and appreciate the natural world through entertainment. Like this is the balance. Like Totoro, he was concerned that like, hey, I've done this great movie about the spirit of the forest and everything, just kind of like the nature, but the kids are staying inside to watch the movie. Where I feel like, mind you, the same thing ultimately is the same result here, but it feels like there's. I think it got conveyed a little bit more. Like people that can come away with this are going to be amazed by the undersea, the beauty of undersea life, and they might look into it after this. You know what I mean? It feels like something just kind of like something just kind of life affirming and just kind of like magical about that opening. The moment you see the world of Ponyo and you hear that Wagner inspired music, it's just just something like I mean, it gives me like a little glow and warmth of happiness. I was like, man, this is really nice. This is kind of what Ponyo is, just a happy little fish movie, but emphasis on the happy.
All right, Jacob.
Yeah, I do really love this movie. It's like it's a really kind of understated, kind of simple movie, but like I said with Totoro, like simple doesn't always mean a bad thing. It's like it's a Totoro, like I said, I described as simple in like the best possible way. You can also really prescribe that to this movie. It's like, I mean, it's just I've pretty much said all my piece with this, and I don't think I can top what Dragon said.
Okay.
But I said I really enjoyed this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's like I definitely have a soft spot for it, and I would definitely say, I mean, of the handful of movies that from Ghibli I have seen so far, this definitely ranks up there, probably my top 3 maybe.
Yeah, for me, I think my top 2 are always going to be Kiki's Delivery Service and Mononoke. As far as directed by Miyazaki, like I said, there's also that asterisk of Whisper of the Heart is like the personal favorite. But I think this is definitely like solidly in the top 3 or 4. I mean, like I think I love Kiki's Delivery Service just for how deep it is, how it's basically like the ultimate like adulting is hard movie. It's super relatable in that department. I love Mononoke just because it's the most ambitious thing that Miyazaki ever did. That thing feels like an epic opera or something like that. This is just like a pitch perfect movie, man. It's like I'm pretty sure this is like close to an hour shorter than Mononoke, but it's just like it's so digestible. The color palette is just so soothing. Some of the best food animation in all of the entire animation industry's history, honestly. The characters are just also well woven and lovable. It's just a treat, man. It's just I would call it a candy bar for the brain, but it's more than that. It's kind of like a well-balanced breakfast for the brain, if you want to call it that. It's just a nice, delicious meal of animation. I mean, there's nothing that's like really, really complex about it, but I think its simplicity, like, just kind of like adds to the charm and adds to what makes it what it is. And like I said, like, with the asterisk that Dumbo has some outdated elements to it, I do think that this is Miyazaki's Dumbo by all intents and purposes. It's just like a very, very lean and mean, just like easily digestible, pretty much perfect family film. And yeah, I definitely really like it. All right. So big thanks to Code Geass. We also have Teddy in the comments. We had a brief cameo by Little Blue mentioning the Nostalgia Critic review of this movie. So yeah, thank you guys for popping in. All right, folks, it's time to board the cat bus and depart until we reach our next memorable stop in the world of May-azaki. Hi-yo!
Ham.
Ham! Ham, yo!